Let's compare populations and samples, which in this case is also going to involve comparing parameters and statistics. If you pull out the paragraph where you can follow along here, a census collects information from all individuals in a population. And usually when we think of census, we think of the government when they ask every single person in the country to fill out some information on a certain date. And that is one form of census. The population of interest there is the United States, and the census collects information from all individuals in that population. However, you could also do that on a much smaller level. You could also take a census of a classroom. If the population that you're interested in is the students in a given classroom, asking everyone would be considered a census. So a census is not just something the U.S. government does. Continuing on, data such as the mean and standard deviation computed from this information are called parameters. Easier to remember because of the fact that parameter starts with a P, as does population. So the mean and standard deviation that we find of an entire population, they're going to be called parameters. The symbol for the mean is the little U-shaped thing with a tail, and we pronounce that mu. So this is called mu. And the symbol for the standard deviation is the little O with a tail, which we pronounce sigma. So these are both Greek letters. Mu and sigma, it represents the mean and the standard deviation. Continuing on, a sample collects information from a few individuals in a population. So if the United States was your population, then asking maybe 1,000 people or 100 people would be a sample. You're not asking everyone, you're just asking a few individuals. Same idea with a classroom. If your population was a classroom and you asked 10 out of your 30 students, that would be taking a sample. Continuing on, data such as the mean and standard deviation computed from this information are called statistics, the name of the course. Whenever we find the average of those people that we sampled, that's going to give us a statistic. These are estimates of the parameters. So anytime we generate a statistic by asking a few people, we're going to be able to come up with a guess, an estimate of what the actual parameter is. So we only ask 10 students to tell us their height. We find the average, and that will give us a guess as to what the actual average height of the class is, even though we're not exactly sure what it is. The symbol for the mean is going to be x with a little line on top, which we call x bar. And the symbol for the standard deviation is s, often with a little subscript x. So when we're dealing with a population, we use mu and sigma to represent our mean and standard deviation. When we're dealing with a sample, we use x bar and sx. Let's try to visualize the population and sample breakdown real quick. First thing you want to do is draw a larger circle to represent your population. And once you have this larger circle representing your population, that represents all people that you are interested in finding something about. Inside of that, you take some chunk of them into a sample. So you have your whole big population, and some smaller subset of them become your sample if you wanted to collect data from only a few individuals. Over here I have the same diagrams drawn slightly differently. If you see this, you might seem to think that the sample must come from people that are physically next to each other or similar to each other, something like that. And in fact, often we want to make sure our sample is picking people that are very different, or at the very least very randomly chosen. So here's just kind of another way of visualizing taking little pockets of the population and dumping them into a sample.